our brains actually are not mature until we are 22 in age for women. For men, it's like closer to 24, 25. Okay. So when I say mature, I mean like the prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain, the one that sits right behind your forehead, right? That part of the brain is not mature until those ages. And why that's important is because that basically explains where we learn the behaviors to get those three things. So we are not essentially able to consciously choose those things. So how do we learn it? Well, we learn it from experience. So like if I say yes and this person is happy with me, oh, okay, that worked. Let me store that pattern. So growing up, we learn it from experience and observing, right? So what did our parents model for us? What did our teachers model for us? What did society model for us? And then the last one is the stories that we hear, right? Like I'm sure you can probably think of a million times that we hear all the time what professionalism is, right? You got to be professional. Well, what does that even mean? And and oftentimes if you ask someone what does that mean to you, they'll tell you, well, it means customer's always right, or it means that I don't swear in certain settings, right? Or it means all these contextual things. But why do we define it that way? It's because we've learned it that way. And so those, like understanding that piece first can really help people understand, oh, even though logically I know that setting boundaries is better for me and my business, the reason why I can't logically do it is because I've practiced this pattern of saying yes and people pleasing and not setting boundaries for so long, and it's worked for me that if I go against that, the brain is essentially telling you, you're not safe. You might get kicked out of the tribe here, right? Like you might get your reputation ruined, and that means you won't get money on the table. And that means you're getting kicked out of the tribe. You're going to be homeless. You're going to be starving, right? Like our brains go
Nobody
into
will love
that.
you.
Yes. And that is why so many people, even though they logically know it, they practice these patterns for 20 something years, and why it's so dang hard to break it because it's happening without you even knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is really what drives that.
Yeah. Now, when I was stuck in the saying yes, even though I really meant no phase of my business, I'm not perfect. It still slips in every now and then, but
Mhm.
I've gotten a much better control over it. But I kept noticing that I knew I was stuck in that pattern. I just couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And I knew I was stuck in it because I kept noticing myself say, well, I have to make sure I earn enough money this month in case next month I don't have as many requests. Or, like, what if I don't get enough requests next week? I need to make sure I earn enough money this month to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So that was my conditioned reasoning, right? That I just had to always constantly be working and working harder and bringing in extra money to save for a rainy day in case the ceiling came tumbling down. Are there certain things that people they can start recognizing, or are there certain phrases like when you worked with other dog business professionals that came up frequently that helps them identify what's keeping them trapped in that pattern?
Yes. And here's what I will say. While everyone's pattern probably stems from a very similar type of experience, everyone's story that they tell themselves might vary person to person, right?
Yeah.
So, like, based off what you grew up watching, hearing, observing, experiencing, versus what I grew up watching, hearing, observing, experiencing are two very different stories. They might be similar, but we have to understand this is the number one reason why also affirmations and those things they help, but they're not going to solve the problem. Is because you have to understand what is it that my brain is saying, if I do this, then this will happen. And So typically what I have people start with is first off recognizing, because most people know they don't want to do these patterns, but they just don't know how to stop it, right? And so it's about recognizing contextually, okay, when am I noticing these patterns coming up? That's always going to be step one, because contextually, that will give you a lot of clues on what is it that I'm really fearing here? What is it that my brain is telling me? If I do this, if I say no to this client, then what? What's going to happen? And oftentimes, if you dive deeper into that, there is an entire story of like beliefs. And so typically, what I tell people to look for in their thought patterns and their language patterns is what is it that either says, if this, then that, or this causes this, right? Those all or nothing type of thinking. And I tell people that even if you think it through, it's better to actually journal it, to write it out, because it slows the brain down enough to be able to actually think about it and process it, versus we've all been there where you try to think logically through it and you just feel like you're spinning in circles. So writing actually slows down the brain enough to be able to do that. So I tell people first recognize the pattern, recognize when it's happening, right? Is it only when I am going to say no to someone, or is it everywhere? So what I mean by that is, does this pattern only happen around clients who are paying me? Or does it happen even in like my family life, my personal life? And starting to understand that those patterns, that's step number one.